Hi, I'm Tara, the wine passionista. A couple of weeks ago I was in Burgundy for a few days as the guest of Patriarch Wine Agencies. I was absolutely thrilled to be going to Burgundy because, believe it or not, it's a wine region I've never been to before, so I was very excited to go. And we were there to celebrate the beginning of the harvest, which is a fantastic time of year where the grapes are being brought in from the vineyards and the wines are started to be made. During these days while we were there, we were guided by Keith Isaacs, who is the general manager of Patriarch Wines, and he's also a master of wine. And there are still less than 300 masters of wine in the whole world, so we were very lucky and privileged to have his knowledge and expertise along with us, and you'll see Keith in the video. We visited lots of the different villages and lots of different vineyards. We started in the Côte de Nuit and travelled down into the Côte de Beaune. And as far as the vineyard designations go, Grand Cru is the best of the best, followed then by Premier Cru. And when you find a bottle of red Burgundy in the store, you'll know immediately that it's made from Pinot Noir grapes, and if it's the Grand Cru, it's the best of those Pinot Noir grapes. And for white Burgundy, it's always 100% Chardonnay. So this video is a little bit about how wine is made. So you'll see a little bit of the harvesting and then a bit in the winery as well, and just to give you an overall impression of how those grapes become these glorious wines from Burgundy. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again really soon. We started the day in the town of Gevrey in the Côte de Nuit amongst the Grand Cru vineyards. This is the Chambertin, Clos de Bez, with Pinot Noir grapes growing here. And from there we drove down through the Côte de Beaune towards the vineyard of Montrachet, which is shared between the villages of Pouligny and Chassagne. And along the way we found some harvesters bringing in the first grapes. These are Chardonnay grapes that they're harvesting here. And this is the Batard Montrachet vineyard.
This is Batard Montrachet being handpicked.
The other way to harvest grapes, other than hand picking, is by using a machine harvester, which is exactly what we're about to get run over by here as it harvests the Chardonnay grapes in this vineyard at Chateau de Meursault. The machine shakes the vines so that only the individual grapes fall off, leaving the stems intact and on the vine. As you'll see as we take a closer look, all the grapes are gone and the stems remain. The grapes are then brought directly to the winery, and this is a delivery of freshly picked Chardonnay grapes. From here, the grapes need to be moved, and the way that that happens is with this Archimedes screw. It doesn't press or crush the grapes in any way, it simply moves them from here to where they need to go, which is into the press. In the production of white wines, the grapes must be separated from the skins before fermentation, and that's what happens here in these big contraptions called boucher presses. The grapes are gently pressed, separating the liquid from the skins. The liquid then runs down into an area for debourbage, or settling, before fermentation takes place. This is Julien Lepont-Joubin, the export marketing manager for Patriarch Wines, and as you can see, he's stealing some of this freshly pressed grape juice to give us our first taste before the juice is fermented. That's free run.
Yeah. It's very grapey. It's very herbaceous green.
Yeah. Looks like vegetables.
Good.
These are all the brand new oak barrels that will be used for the first time with this vintage.
Biggest of the and as you order barrels, you would specify the oak, the degree of toasting, whether you want the heads toasted or all toasted, and these are about 400 pounds each.
Now it's time to take a look at the red wine production. Here are some Pinot Noir grapes arriving on the sorting table. They're being shaken like that to take away any moisture that might have occurred in the vineyard, to dry the grapes, so that when they go through and into the tanks there won't be any added water. This is the sorting table where these professionals are looking for any grapes that are rotten or moldy, and they'll take them out and discard them. Sorting the grapes looked like a lot of fun, so we decided we'd give it a try ourselves. Although it turns out it was a lot harder work than we imagined, and I was constantly deferring to the professionals to tell me whether or not those grapes were okay. After a little while, we started to get the hang of it, and I certainly have a whole new appreciation for the work these guys do. These Pinot Noir grapes will go into making the 2010 Bourgogne Rouge. If it were a Premier Cru wine they were making, there would be less grapes on the table to provide a more rigid selection process. From the sorting table, the grapes then go into this machine here, which is a destemmer. The grapes are separated from the stems. The grapes themselves go into the tanks, which we'll see in a moment, and the stems come out here on this conveyor belt. And then they are spat out into this massive container where we have a huge pile of discarded grape stems. Here we are at the stainless steel tanks. The one at the end that Julien is looking into is having grapes pumped into it, where the grapes will then undergo fermentation.
Like a Technicolor yacht, there's grapes going into the...
Try not to drop my camera in. Keith explains to us a little bit about how the tanks work.
These bits around here, these are refrigeration panels where you run chilled water around. So, when it's cold, you might run hot water around on day one to make sure the fermentation starts. And as the temperature rises, you run hot water around to control the temperature to a maximum of about 32 degrees. Spraying it onto the top to keep the cap wet and to wash out colours and tanins. And then these are easy to empty because of, see those orange screw trapdoors. Rather than have to shovel everything out by hand, you just open that and it just empties itself. And then it's easier to clean.
How long is the fermentation process?
Fermentation probably 7 days. You may macerate it before fermentation. You may ferment for most of the time. And then you leave it to press it. After you fermented it, the press will come along, park itself under here. You then open this, run all the pulp and skin into the press and press it. Take off the press wine, you may decide how much you use to brew around how much press wine. And the tanks on the other side, the smaller ones, they were from black and white wine.
I hope you've enjoyed this short little sneak peek into how wine is made. Now it's time to enjoy the fruits of the labour, with 3 stunning wines from Burgundy, a Chateau Montrachet, Puligny Montrachet, and Meursault. These are all from the Patriarch wine agencies who were my very kind hosts in Burgundy.